So the next area we're going to look at is conduct with student voice, and really looking at why we have to use student voice to improve student conduct. And some quick facts: students target and harass other students. 1 in 10 students are threatened or injured with a weapon in school each year. 1 in 10 middle school students have been bullied in the last 6 months. 1 in 14 students have carried a weapon to school one or more times in the past 6 months. 1 in 3 students saw hate-related graffiti in the last 6 months. 1 in 8 students were targeted with hate-related words in the previous 6 months. The fact is, these are all problems that we see. These are problems we see in our schools. And one thing that we can do is use students to prevent and manage harassment, use students to solve a student-based problem. And it all starts with escalation. We talked a lot this year when we read The Respectful School about escalation. So I went back to that to kind of take a look at it. And what starts out as routine bias or degrading language and communication between students can quickly escalate to far more serious behaviors, to the point where a target of such behaviors could face threats or even violence. And we start with routine degrading language, and that can escalate towards stronger degrading language, moving towards threats, and eventually, as I said, violence. This escalation occurs when harassment goes uninterrupted. It can occur over a period of days, weeks, even longer, but it can absolutely happen faster than that. Sometimes even within a minute can an escalation go through all four of these stages. We commonly think of the need for teachers to intervene, and that will help us. Intervention is the key at any level to preventing um, stuff from routine degrading language to escalating to violence. We need intervention. And we commonly think of the teachers need to intervene, but teachers are limited in how much of the students' interactions they observe. We need to empower and educate students to take an active role in preventing harassment and dealing with conflict. And our solution for that we come to is, one of the solutions is just peer intervention. We investigated the ability for students to take on a leadership role in preventing the escalation of bias in student conduct. And there are major benefits to using both formal and informal methods of peer intervention. Students are more likely to observe bias. They're the ones that are there. We as teachers only see them for a small portion of the day. Students see each other, and they see each other in a far more natural environment. They have a common language with each other, and they can be used not only to support the victim when they've been affected by bullying, or be resistance to the bully. And using a peer intervention model promotes a student-centered climate, which is something that goes along with the student-centered instruction, something that schools are really focusing on now, everything being student-centered. Some possible areas where this can take place, some methods of peer intervention. The first one is peer mediation. Peer mediation, and there are disputes. And one of the articles we read this year that showed that sometimes peer mediation can have an inverse effect on the climate in a school or the conduct of a student. But there's also been disputes over that peer mediation. The White House report from the ASCD cited research that showed that peer mediation was associated with increases in victimization. However, studies cited in Conflict Resolutions Quarterly it was a while ago in 2003 by Dr. Robert Harris in 2006 display positive effects of peer mediation, such as resolving the majority of conflicts mediated, improving students' sense of their school climate, reduction in disciplinary actions, and disputants in peer mediation observe the disputants in the peer mediation get to observe the behavior of skilled student mediators, which results in a change in their skills, attitudes, and behaviors around conflict management. The next area is conflict resolution, and that's a constructive approach to interpersonal and intergroup conflicts that help people with opposing positions work together to arrive at a mutually acceptable compromise or solution. And there are two categories: programs where the disputants work among themselves to settle their differences, and one that's more of a peer mediation model where a mediator helps them reach an agreement. The themes of conflict resolution are focused on active listening, cooperation, acceptance, creative problem solving, and these programs have been found not only to reduce aggression and violence in communities and their schools, but also to provide lifelong decision-making skills. Next, we have peer training. Peer training involves taking leadership roles and students taking leadership roles and presenting information to and training their fellow students. This can be done for a number of issues, but is generally seen with activist clubs such as peer AIDS educators and Gay Straight Alliance members. Finally, we have peer leadership programs. And in the Respectful School, Westler cites Partners Against Hate as a great resource and gives information on 20 different peer leadership programs around the country.